Let's look at an example of locating some new facility. First of all, we'll use a device file which has appropriate colours, and then we'll use our location allocation software. Now, what I'm going to use is some Sydney data, and we need a base map, which is Sydney postcodes, and some attribute data. Now, the attribute you use depends on what your application is. If you're doing a retail site, for example, you might want disposable income, but in a general case, something like total population might be appropriate. Now, let's say we've got, 4 existing sites, and we want a new appropriate site, so that gives us 5. And we need a geographic file to output the data, so location allocation perhaps, and then away we go, and we've got an initial solution. We asked for 5 sites, and the data from the demand points, which is the centroids of the polygons, and the data being the census data or total population, has been sort of equally applied to each of the sites, and we've ended up with a balanced solution. Now, in practice, you're probably having a certain number of fixed sites. In our case, we've got 5 fixed sites, and we want to choose another one. So what we should do first of all is actually define where these existing sites are. So, for example, this one up here is actually down over here, and that's site number 5. This one here, site number 2, is actually over here, say. Site number 2. And site number 3 is over here. And we can now apply our algorithm again. We've now got the location set to where we want to go. Now you can do other stuff like rename all these sites so you can keep track of what they are. One of the major things you find, any city usually has, say, one large river through the middle of it, and that can act as a barrier for the demand on each of these sites, and so you can set barriers on your file. Now, in our case, this is Sydney Harbour, and so it seems reasonable to have a barrier through the middle of Sydney Harbour to stop the demand sort of going across. So we apply the algorithm again, and now we've got this barrier here, and it's limited where things can go. Similarly, you can put in freeways if you've got a motorway or a railway or something which is going to affect the travel or whatever to a site. You can digitize one in a similar way. Now, although the algorithm will choose a site for you, in practice, of course, that's not often ideal. For example, if you've just chosen a site for a new prison, some people in that location might be very happy they don't have to go so far to visit mum. But in practice, the politics come in, and you may be forced to actually physically site it somewhere else. Similarly, in retail, it's not just a case of choosing where the best place is for your new retail outlet, you've really got to choose from the retail locations that you're able to rent. So often in the second stage of this, you start not so much a location, but just do allocation by fixing the final site that you're trying to position to the possible locations and looking at the possible results. Now, when you've finished your siting, you can print a report on it all, but in particular you can output the solution to what we call a combine file, and I've got one here called solution.combine, and we can output to that and give it a name as usual, solution. Now, the combine file, so-called, is usually used to combine polygons into higher level regions, and in this case for each site we'll get a list of the demand points that are allocated to that site. So I can go away and use that. I can go to the top menu, preparation, process geographic files, and I can amalgamate zones for the combined file. So our input geographic file is the Sydney postcodes, which is our base map. Our combined file was the one we output, and we can give it some name, locality.geo perhaps. Get a warning. Okay. A title. Solution, say. Now we can we can build our segments in that geographic file, cal.geo, get up into, say, final parameters, and we're building into a new file. Now we can do preparation similarly on the attribute file. We can amalgamate attribute file. Our original attribute is the census data. We can use our combined file again, and we can output that to another attribute file. And now we can do a map, display zones, solution.at, and our final alloc was the geographic file. So now we've produced a map which is using our combined attribute and our combined geographic file. So bit hard to see. Quantization method, let's use quantile, say. And now we've got a map of our final allocated sites, and we should be able to overlay names from our final allocation. And there we have the names. Now there's multiple polygons because of islands and things off the coast, but here are our various sites and the way they were allocated.